Well, it may be the international break in the Premier League, but that doesn't mean we don't have some great virtual football action to bring you this weekend. In this, the ePremier League finals for 2023. Over this weekend, we have all the 20 Premier League clubs represented by some of the very best FIFA players in this country. And we also get to see some new emerging talent as well. Well, it's super exciting because at the end of this weekend, one club we crowned our ePremier League champion for 2023 and take home a very cool £30,000 as well. Not a bad prize, is it at all? And joining me this weekend, we have these two guys next to me, Alex B, the FIFA analyst, and Gravison, a professional esports player in the Spanish leagues, of course. I mean, guys, this is quite an exciting time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very exciting for these players. You have a range of talent from 16 years of age all up to the experience, and being here for the first time in person at your first event can be a bit daunting. You've got the 4 pods, it looks beautiful. I'm looking forward to seeing if some players kind of live up to that hype.
Well, Alex, that's the point, isn't it? It's very different from what they do in their living rooms, in their bedrooms at home. It's a very different stage here.
Yeah, definitely. It's the equivalent of Premier League clubs playing their matches at their training ground. You play at home, in your own room, in that comfort, it's very different. When you get on that big stage, the lights are on, the pressure's on. Some players, as I said, thrive off it.
Well, let's hope the players thrive on it today. Gravison, a question to you. Obviously, you've played in the La Liga, the Spanish league at home, and these guys are playing in the ePremier League, which for them, they get to represent some of their childhood clubs. It's a massive moment, isn't it?
It is a massive moment, definitely. Like, it's a different thing. They probably, most of them play for different esports club, but when you are playing for your childhood club. I remember the first time in the La Liga when I was playing for Real Oviedo, I was shaking because it's just a big thing, you know. Probably lots of them have been playing World Cups and big stuff, but the chance of playing for your childhood club is just another thing.
And for people who don't know a load about esports, there are so many similarities as well to the Premier League, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely. We have some players who might don't have like they might have a slow start, and you can afford that. Like just in real life, let's just say you go to halftime and you're kind of asleep and you concede a goal, you're 0-1, and then that plays a massive factor. Here as well, if you're just gone for a second, you're gonna be scoring or conceding a goal. So yeah, definitely, like I'd say it's pretty much as the same as like football.
Yeah, they have to really keep their head in the game. And I've had a little look at the pods, and everyone at the moment seems pretty excited and happy to be here. Not too many nerves if you look around the room behind me. So all super exciting. And guys, a lot of you, as we were saying, it's a dark weekend in the Premier League. We'll be sitting at home and maybe practicing on your console FIFA as well and thinking, I would like to be here next year. Well, you possibly could, because this is how the ePremier League works.
The ePremier League returns for its 5th year in 2023, with all 20 Premier League clubs looking to secure the EPL trophy and the lion's share of the huge £100,000 prize pool. The tournament kicked off back in November with 2-day online qualifiers open to fans all over the UK. Less than a month later, we progressed to the individual club playoffs, where players battled to knock out their rivals and earn the right to represent a Premier League club either on Xbox or PlayStation. Now it's time for the ultimate stage, the EPL Finals, with every club bringing their Xbox and PlayStation players to London to try and secure the ultimate prize over 2 days of EA Sports FIFA action. Day 1 features a round-robin group play and 4 groups of 5 teams, with the top 2 teams from each group progressing to the knockout bracket. Each fixture features an Xbox and PlayStation leg played simultaneously. 3 points are available for each leg with a win, meaning a win in both legs will secure you 6 points. There's no extra time or penalties, and it's 1 point for a draw, nothing for a loss. Day 2 is a single elimination knockout bracket featuring the top 8 teams from the group stages. You win your fixture, you progress to the next round. You lose, and you go home. Each fixture features an Xbox and PlayStation leg played back to back, with an aggregate scoreline across both legs. If the aggregate scoreline is tied at the end of the second leg, we go to extra time and penalties. Only one team can be crowned champions of the ePremier League.
Well, 40 players have qualified, but guys, there's still a long way to go, isn't there? Obviously, 20 teams, 40 players, and we have 4 groups as well of 5 teams in each, all ready to battle it out to try and get the top 8 spots, which they need to go through to Sunday's matches to obviously try and be crowned the 2022-23 ePremier League champions. Let's have a quick look in Group A. There's some powerhouses in that one, Gravison, aren't there? Firstly, let's go through the likes of Arsenal, Palace, Southampton. Who do you think might have a chance this year?
Yeah, Palace obviously has a big chance with Ethan, a really good English player. Arsenal obviously have also really good players as well, but I could go probably with Aston Villa. We can go more into Conke, a player who's been playing at his best for a couple of years now. He reached the Club World Cup final, unfortunately losing it, but it's still a really good result. And then he's at this kind of age, 21, when you're kind of peaking, like FIFA talking. So yeah, that might be different than real football, but yeah, in FIFA, if you're 22, you're kind of just reaching that highest peak.
Yeah, that is quite different to the Premier League. Guys at home, if you don't know, Gravison's 24 and at the end of his FIFA career already at a very young age. Alex, let's move on to Group B and see again which clubs you've got your eye on to progress nicely through the competition.
Yeah, Group B, I think there's two teams that we look at to start off with, which Manchester City, you've got a former ePremier League winner in Chelsea, didn't make the event last year, wasn't particularly happy with that. You know, he said that's going to make me be a little bit harder coming into the season. And Ryan as well got groups last year, which he wasn't particularly happy with. So that is one to look out for. But then for everyone at home, Liverpool, Tex and Diogo. Tex is arguably one of the best FIFA players to ever brace the game. Which you look at that and you think that is a partnership with Tex and Diogo. That you think, could they go all the way and get that trophy together? Quite possibly.
Well, they kind of almost need to, and we were chatting about this off camera. Tex, if you guys don't know, he was our first ever ePremier League champion in 2019. This was that match there. It was up against Man United in that final, and it was a massive moment for him because he's such a massive Liverpool fan as well. He talks openly about that, and I think after that a lot of players knew his name. He loved that Trent Alexander-Arnold knew his name, Virgil van Dijk did, so became quite a person, didn't he, for Liverpool. This then was in COVID, this was 2020, didn't quite go all the way there, but has been around the Premier League and is the only player to have ever represented the same club in all 5. This is the 5th version of the ePremier League, which is a massive statement, Gravison.
Definitely. I mean, if I could play for my Real Oviedo team for 5 years in a row, that would be like a big thing for me. But we've seen Tex over the years. The thing is, he's been playing at his best at the LAN event, but also those online years, 2020, 2021, he actually did good. Not as good as you would expect from Tex, because you obviously always expect him to win.
And actually, his teammate Diogo, they actually competed against each other in 2019. Diogo was playing for Fulham there, is now transferred to Liverpool, and Tex knocked him out in the 120th minute with a header. Not very nice. They're now teammates, they're now on the same side, guys. So it's all happy in the Liverpool camp this time. Okay, let's go to Group C then and see who is in action there. Gravison, back to you. Massive names. Man United there, we said runners-up in 2019.
Yeah, we talked about Tyreece being the runner-up in 2019, but yeah, we also have Jaden, a player who actually qualified for the World Cup in FIFA 21, a player who actually is a really good real football player as well. We have Leeds with Olelito, a Swedish player who was the runner-up as well. Stokes, a massive English player for 10 years now. But we should jump into West Ham, I'd say, with Goal Poacher being last year's winner. And he's just 18. For me, that's mental. Like, when I was 18, I obviously did have like the talent, but did you have the composure to actually win big tournaments? He did, so he might go back-to-back this year, which I think could be like a big statement.
Yeah, Alex, though, is very different. Last year he was playing with the Polish player Dami, and they had brought to the EPL last year a completely new formation. We hadn't seen it before, and that was eventually which led them to be the winners. Can we see something similar this year from Goal Poacher without this partner of Dami?
Yeah, I think he's kind of got something to live up to, purely because last year there wasn't any pressure on himself. No one really went into that and said, you know what, yeah, Norwich are going to be the champions. But now we're talking about it and we're saying, can Goal Poacher kind of put that on his own back and take it all the way? Has he got something up his locker like Dami did with that 3-5-2 formation coming through? I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table. Yeah,
well, let's see if he can repeat that. Great scenes last year, and we mentioned that Gravison as well has never been a player who's gone back-to-back either, so it'd be special if history could be made this year. Right, finally, Group D and our final 5 Premier League teams. Alex, again, I'm going to go Nottingham Forest here. My team are in this group, so I'm excited to see how they get on. Obviously, I'm going to be on the fence throughout.
Yeah, possible chance for Nottingham Forest, but I kind of draw my attention to Tottenham Hotspur, where we see Tom Lees, former ePremier League winner, gorilla. It won the championship as well many years ago. He hasn't been performing too well at the ePremier League over the last few years. He'll be the first person to say that. So he knows that he needs to come here and perform. And we look at that and we say they've got that experience. They're a great partnership. They play outside of that with themselves. But we look at it and we say, well, you've got experience there in that age. Leicester, you've got players at 16 years of age, which when you come into that tournament for Koza, he's never been here before at 16, you can just play with freedom. You don't have any extra pressure on yourself. You come here, you say, you know what, I've got here, I'm going to just go and perform. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Well, we see that in the Premier League, don't we? Some players making their debut age 16, and for the likes of Koza to be making his ePremier League debut at 16, it's so young. These guys are probably still in school and going back on Monday saying, do you know what I did the weekend? Well, I was actually in London competing in one of the biggest FIFA esports events going. So, yeah, he's very much on the map, on Sky as well. And talking of Sky, that's what you're watching right now. But you, of course, can watch on Sky YouTube as well and on EA Sports FIFA Twitch. And there we have 4 streams. So you can check out all the 4 pods behind us and pick the favourite match that you want to draw your attention to. So there is so much going on there. So it's pretty cool. Right, so we also have some viewership rewards for you like we always do on these shows. So if you're watching at home and want to get some free goodies just for enjoying this show, it's pretty simple. Make sure you link your Twitch and EA accounts and watch for at least an hour to get everything you see here on screen. Kits, crests, tifos and stadium. Head over to ea.com/Twitch linking for more information and how to link your accounts. So you're pretty nice. We give stuff away, don't we, for free as well. Right, schedule then. Groups A and B first up. Round 1 starts at 12:15. Then we have 2, 3 and 4. Finally, round 5 to see which 2 teams from groups A and B go through to Sunday. That's at 2:15. And then we've got groups C and D a little bit later this afternoon. Round 1 for those guys is at 5 to 3. Again, similar format to earlier on, 2, 3 and 4. And then that crucial round 5 is the one if you have to pop out and do something on your Saturday, come back at 5 to 5 and you get to see who goes through to Sunday. Only 8 teams go through to Sunday. We're going to knock out a lot of teams today, guys. It's going to be heartbreak for some, but absolute joy for others. Well, come back and join us in a couple of moments. The guys are getting ready behind us for round 1 of the ePremier League finals for 22-23.
Hello and welcome to the ePremier League finals. I'm Richie Sheridan. Joining me is Dan Gaskin. And Dan, excited to jump into this one?
Of course. I mean, ePremier League, one of my favourite competitions of the year. We have incredible players and, of course, playing for the biggest and best clubs in the world. And I'm sure today's going to be even more of the same.
Yeah, and on our screen is going to be Group A action featured on the stations. Crystal Palace up against Southampton, and it's going to be Ethan up against Michael Fisher. Going to be a big game for these two boys.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, the highest seed actually coming into this competition, and really excited to see whether they can live up to those expectations. I think the majority of that is because of Ethan. He has been such a fantastic player throughout this season in major competitions as well. He's been able to take championships, so I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on him today. I think
with that in mind, let's take a look at the prize pool and see exactly what kind of pressure we're talking about. Well, up for grabs today, the lion's share of £100,000. First place gets 30k, Daniel.
Yeah, a nice little bit of the bag for a good day's work, I'd say, when you'll be able to take down the competition across the 2 days. Today is the group stages, and then we go into the knockouts. So 30,000 for the winner. But of course, it's about the pride of being the ePremier League champion and hoisting that trophy above your head.
Getting to represent some of the most prestigious clubs in the world, it would say, not just England in the Premier League here today. And I think for the boys representing Crystal Palace and Southampton, they want to put their best foot forward in game number one, Dan.
Yeah, and very important for Ethan. I mean, he's been wanting to play for his boyhood club, I think, for several years. He's represented a few different clubs throughout the ePremier League, but playing for Palace now, he's hoping to get that one step further and maybe be a champion under Crystal Palace as well.
Now let's talk about wanting to get off to the best possible start, because you're not doing this alone. You have a teammate on the Xbox, so you need to have a cumulative points and a maximum of 6 up for grabs here. So it's important to get off to a hot start for these two.
Yeah, basically the way it's going to work is it is a single leg of FIFA for both the PlayStation and the Xbox side, and it is going to be 3 points up for grabs on either side. So you are playing as a team. It's not just you representing your squad, and that means that you both need to be making sure you're picking up points. It goes into a different format once you reach the knockout stands, but right now it's just going to be about getting as much points as possible.
And we talk about wanting to put the best foot forward, and with so much money up for grabs, if you do lose that opening game, it can really mount and pile on the pressure right from the get-go.
Yeah, it can. I think you have to make sure you start and come out the blocks early. Otherwise, you're going to be in a position where you're trying to scrape back points, and you're going to be in a position where maybe you're playing under pressure, and some teams, they don't perform that well under pressure.
And in the groups, it's worth talking about. There's going to be 4 groups total, and we've got the top 2 going through. So it's really going to be touch and go there for a lot of these teams if they lose a couple of fixtures on the bounce.
Yeah, I think when you get a 5-team group and only 2 go through, that makes this first game even more important.
Yeah.
Because as you start to go down and you start to look at the other games that are going to be coming up, like I said, pressure, it can make diamonds, but it can also burst pipes. And some of these players are maybe not as used to playing under these pressure situations. We have some absolute veterans in this competition, but there's also some new boys here, some very young players as well, players as young as 16 years old competing today, and they'll start to learn a little bit about the pressure environment and how to deal with that.
And how much of a factor is experience going to be here, do you think, with having some players who have been in this situation before and have been able to manage some of the expectations that are put on their shoulders? Do you think that is a distinct advantage for some of these guys?
I think so. I think it always will be in any competition where you're playing in a live environment. If you've been there, if you've done that, you know what the pressures are like. And that's where management staff can come into things, preparation, coaching staff can also help out, because yes, you can explain to these players what it's going to be like, but they're not going to know until they're there in the moment what it's like to play on a big stage or to just play in an environment where there are so many people around and so many eyes on you as well. Like even just having a commentary team that are going to be covering your games. Like, you think about those kind of things when you're in a game. When you're playing, you're like, oh, I wonder what they're saying. You've got to get past that. You've got to kind of ignore it and almost pretend like you are still in your bedroom playing at home. Mum's going to bring in a cup of tea halfway through. Maybe your mum's come along and maybe she will bring it, and it's going to be a good one.
Well, let's take a look at our upcoming match then. On our screens, Crystal Palace up against Southampton. Ethan up against Michael Fisher for the lion's share of 3 points. And they really want to get off to a hot start here and get cooking right from early doors. And for Ethan, he's gotten to the latter stages of the competition before, and can he go on and win it here?
Yeah, I think that Ethan will be looking at this competition for Crystal Palace as a potential win, whereas when you look at on the Southampton side, maybe it's not as expected. I would say they're the underdogs in this fixture, but that doesn't mean it's unobtainable, right? I think when you look at everyone across the board, every club, I think one of the beautiful things about the ePremier League is it's from the grassroots, as it were, of esports. Like, anyone can qualify. We see players who aren't necessarily pro FIFA players in other competitive scenes, but they were able to beat players to get here, and then this is their opportunity to be on the biggest stage and show what they can do. And you can have that Cinderella story, you can have that moment where you are able to take down an Ethan or a Tex, and you can make that moment, and then suddenly that can be your career flourishing and developing. This could be the start of the new Tex, you know, the new Ethan. We could see players that are really starting their career here.
This could be a real breaking out point for some of these players, especially you mentioned players at 16 years of age. What a career they could have on their hands. But as we get ready to jump into gameplay, Dan, talk to me about Ethan, talk to me about Michael Fisher. What can we expect from this game?
I think Ethan is a player who always prides himself in his direct attacking football. He will make sure he is pushing as much as possible against his opponent.
And it's Ethan then in the Crystal Palace kick, kicking left to right. And it will be Michael Fisher from right to left in the grey of Southampton. Team selection is going to be so important here. Eric Cantona, that new foot birthday icon, only recently put into the game. And we see a little introduction of future stars, Mudryk in there as well. A few unfamiliar faces from what we're used to in the pro scene.
Yeah, so if you are a watcher, an avid watcher of competitive FIFA, maybe this will be something a little bit different for you. But as we are playing in the ePremier League, all teams must compete with Premier League players, and of course it is the ultimate team mode that's being used. So even though it's Crystal Palace, even though it's Southampton, we're not going to see Crystal Palace and Southampton players. Instead, we're going to see the best of the Premier League players representing these players at the club.
Ethan trying to get something cooking here. Just over 7 minutes gone then. Building up outside the box, training together a couple of skill moves. Haaland will be able to shuffle that one back now. Eventually makes his way to the point and lobbed it over the top, but defended well by Michael Fisher, and a counter-attack opportunity here now with Saliba out to Junior. That Saliba card so good, particularly after its upgrades. Here is Mudryk. Try and carry the ball forward. Both players playing this extremely patient.
Yeah, you've got to be cautious. It's one leg of FIFA, so you can't afford to make a mistake. And we have seen throughout competitive FIFA recently, very defensive formations seem to have been taken priority. So if you do take a goal lead, you can kind of sit on it. So you have to be careful, make sure you're not throwing anything away.
Ball almost making its way to the front line. To the foot of the Frenchman, Eric Cantona. Counter-attack now. Ginola will find Haaland just about as he powers through. Here is Cantona. What can he do? Tries to perform the skill move, tries to open up that little bit of space, but defending well.
You've got to get creative when you are in the final third. A lot of these guys are going to be very switched on defensively. They're going to be expecting certain skill moves in, even though there are the favourites, even though there are the best ways to get past an opponent. If you can go outside of the box a little bit, catch your opponent off guard, you're more likely to be able to create that space and find that goal. For Michael Fisher in Southampton here, it's his second season in the Premier League, and he's looking to try and get further than last.
Defends well once more. Ethan starting to build up, threatening just a little bit, getting into the box a couple of times, only for an astute piece of last-ditch defending. Offside trap has been sprung here, but Mudryk will be able to carry the ball away, showing great strength then for Michael Fisher. Offside trap sprung once again, and that could be something that catches you off guard every now and again. Here is the Ukrainian though. What can Fisher do? Opens his body up, will find Kyle Walker. And again, playing it patient. You can see just how congested it is back there, trying to find that space. Offside flag will go up.
And it would be such a statement of intent from Fisher and Southampton here if he was to get a result against Crystal Palace and Ethan, especially considering Crystal Palace come into this as the #1 seed. They are expected to be coming out of this group, and comfortably, I'd imagine, when we start to talk about who are the potential winners, who are going to be making it to the knockout rounds, who would be facing who. Like, there are some heavy favourites throughout the ePremier League. The likes of Liverpool, we know that they are, or should be, getting to the later stages. Tottenham, for example, as well. Powerhouses in the FIFA scene. But if then you were to take down Crystal Palace here in the first game of the day, you start to be in that conversation. You start to be represented as maybe a team who should be getting to the latter stages. So I think this is a very exciting and very possible moment to make history in the ePremier League for yourself, and as we've said, like, it could be the Kickstarter for your career.
And with being the underdog for Michael Fisher, does that take off some of the pressure? If he does go a goal down, he knows that coming into this, he wasn't expected to win, and perhaps that'll give him a little bit of freedom on the pitch.
I believe so. I believe that when you are going up against the #1 seed, you never have the expectation to win. Of course, you are going to have the hope that you would win, and you need to have that mindset as well. Otherwise, you can be very easily punished by some of the biggest and best players in the world. But I think that Michael Fisher, he backs himself. He's already been and had his debut in the ePremier League last year. And I think once you get those nerves out of the way, now you are, in your second season, you're representing Southampton. This is a really good opportunity for him to show us what he's made of. He does like to play a 4-2-2-2, or a 4-2-2-2 if you want to make it easier, or a 4-2-3-1. So your more default formations, right? He's not going for something like a 5 at the back, which we will see some teams playing at this competition.
4-2-3-1, a personal favourite of mine. Keeps you pretty balanced going forward and at the back as well. And now something for Ethan to build upon as Vidic gets the ball out wide and eventually finds his feet now to Mudryk. Tries a couple of skill moves and a player lock inside. David Ginola, reverse elastico, just cut out by the Frenchman Saliba. Maybe he can clear his lines here as well. Well defended once more, and neither player having a shot at goal at the moment. It's been pretty cagey.
I will say Michael Fisher, when asked who was the most underrated player in the Premier League when it comes to in-game FIFA items, he said David Ginola, and that concerns me a little bit. Do you think David Ginola is an underrated player?
I would say he's very rated, actually.
He's almost at some points being one of the best rated players that is available.
Ball fight over the top though. Cantona tussling with Kyle Walker. Comes out worse for wear this time. So here is Kevin De Bruyne, and carried away for Michael Fisher. Again, just trying to fashion that chance, get that opening. One goal could be huge here. Ball fight over the top, but well cut out this time by Virgil van Dijk for Ethan. And again, both players trying those over the top through balls, trying to go a little bit more direct now.
Well, as I said, Ethan likes to play it direct. Similar to Stoke on a Wednesday night, you don't really want to be going up against Ethan when he starts to get going with his over the top through balls, but hasn't found one that works just yet. And maybe it is an element of patience now we need to be seeing from these players. Pass it around at the back, look for those gaps, try and force those mistakes from your opponent, and then maybe you can get something.
Here is an opportunity then. Eric Cantona fires it across goal. Edwin van der Sar could do little about it, and Ethan takes the lead.
Tell you what, look at the new foot birthday items as well. Cantona looks pretty good, and it was definitely a display of patience there from Ethan. It wasn't going for the direct over the top through ball. Instead, he did pick apart his opponent. Made sure Michael Fisher just drew one of those players out of position and then took full advantage of it. And as soon as Cantona gets in those areas, you expect him to be able to hit the back of the net. It's just a case of getting around those defenders so there's not too many bodies in the way. A great opener now from Ethan, and that might just open this game up a bit. It's been very cagey. Neither player has really been able to take it by the scruff of the neck, but I would imagine now that Ethan has a good hold on this one.
Will that goal just settle the nerves? Oh, as looking for an instant reply here, but Ginola, he tried that extra pass inside, perhaps the opportunity to drive on.
And that is something we're going to see a lot in today's competition, is players looking for that extra percentage, looking for that extra pass, because you want to guarantee yourself a shot on target. Shooting from that area would be a risk. It's not as likely to go in. The keeper is more than likely going to be saving that one, especially with goalkeeper movement being available to them. So he was just wanting to make sure he could just up those percentages, get that extra pass and give him a better chance of scoring. But as we get closer towards half-time, Ethan now has the opportunity to go for the last attack of the half here. And again, something else we would see quite often in FIFA, but almost gives it away.
Here is Cantona, collar popped up. Ginola drives down to the byline. Little step over, trying to find that pass inside and drives it across goal, but the Spaniards there, Junior Firpo, they clear the ball away. Half-time then. Ethan, 1 goal to the good, and the perfect start for Crystal Palace.
It's a great start from Ethan, but remember, it's not just one player on each team. We are playing on both consoles. We have PlayStation and we have Xbox, and as you can see in the Xbox game, it is underway. It's Southampton versus Crystal Palace. It's still the same teams playing, and it's still 0-0 over on the Xbox console shares. And it means it's another cagey affair between these two.
It's actually Ben and Rowe, as a goal has just gone in then, as David Ginola gets one back for Southampton. So as it stands, both Crystal Palace and Southampton have 3 points shared from the opening fixtures. As we head back over to PlayStation and have another look at Ethan and Michael Fisher and see what's cooking in the second half.
I mean, that's huge. It's very important to know that you are your partner in crime is going to be able to at least pick up points. You won't know that, though. There's going to be no knowledge, you'd imagine, from the players. It's just about picking up points in your own game.
Yeah, no WhatsApp messages will be received at the moment as both these players have their heads down trying to get as many points on the board from the opening fixtures as they possibly can. But so far, it's Ethan getting the better of the opening exchanges, and with that 1-goal lead, will he look now just to sit on it and invite the pressure on and maybe hit on the counter-attack?
Or you can go for the over-the-top through balls, which can certainly give you a lot of space here as an acrobatic attempt to try and bring it down. Maybe isn't the best way. But if Ethan does get a second here, you imagine it could be the end.
Chance, there it is. Just as we spoke about it, Eric Cantona doubles the lead for Ethan. Firmly in the driver's seat now. And all came from a long throw-in, headed down by Haaland. And the big Frenchman's there to slot that one home.
And this is where it gets difficult now for Michael Fisher and Southampton when you're 2 goals down against one of the best players in this competition, I'd say, in Ethan Higgins. You have to be trying to assess how you get 2 goals back, because now it's about trying to rescue a point in this game. Sure, goal difference might be a thing later on in the group stages, but ultimately you've just got to try and focus on the points first and foremost, and picking up at least 1 would be the bare minimum. Even if it's not the end of the world, knowing that your teammate is currently gaining 3 points in the Xbox leg, but you've really just got to focus on doing your best.
Such narrow margins at the top here. And that one chance that Michael Fisher had, he went for the extra pass, he tried to get that high percentage strike, but unfortunately for him, found the foot of the defender, and they're the difference makers at the top level. You might only get 1 or 2 chances like that. It's been few and far between thus far. Still plenty of time to get a goal or 2 here, but you have to feel it needs to come quick.
30 minutes remaining. Even the best players in the world would struggle to get back into a FIFA game in said amount of time, but it is still possible. You just need 1 in the next few moments to give you that belief, and then not allow Crystal Palace and Ethan to eat away at that clock, because that's what's going to happen. I mean, some will call it time wasting. We see it in, of course, regular football as well.
Gamesmanship, I think, is the word we use.
Game management. You know, you just sometimes need to keep the ball away from your opponent, and as long as you're doing it in a respectable way.
Match of the dark arts as the ball's fired over the top, but offside flag will be sprung. This time it's going to be Mohamed Salah, just getting forward a little bit too cheekily this time around. You can see a pause has been cued from Michael Fisher as he maybe looks to make those changes to find a foothold back in this game.
Just to give you an update from the other game as well between Ben and Rowe on the Xbox. It's 2-0 now to Southampton on that Xbox side. So Rowe is doing his job over there. Unfortunately, though, for Michael Fisher, not able to really rescue anything in these last few moments against Ethan. But we go into the tactics screen. This is when you start to throw everything on. You start to get the fresh legs. You start to make some changes and throw everything and the kitchen sink at your opponent. And this is where we can really see games change in FIFA, because then you will start to apply pressure. You start to make sure that all of your players on the pitch are going to be making it impossible for those easy passes out of the back. You do, of course, leave yourself exposed, and there is possibility that maybe Ethan now could get 3, could get 4, but I think you have to go for it here. Goal difference is not what you're looking for. You're trying to get that point.
You do leave yourself a little bit more vulnerable when chasing the game. Counter-attacks are always a big play, especially you can see how quickly Ethan can fire that ball forward to the likes of Haaland. But Michael Fisher, like you say, he has to go for it now, down by a couple of goals, and although his teammate on the opposite side is getting the job done, he's not to know that, and he's going to try and secure as many points as he possibly can from this point forward.
Although you look at the fixtures and you look at who you're playing against, I think Michael, knowing he's against Ethan, and Ethan being one of the key reasons why Crystal Palace is so highly seeded in this competition, the highest seed, he wouldn't have had those expectations, and if he knew that his opponent, his teammate was still getting the 3 points, I think he'd be delighted with it. He just does need to focus on his own game here, and if he can win the ball back soon, who knows, maybe he can rescue a goal and start to think about a comeback.
Threat to just nip the ball away there with Ruud Gullit, but immediately fires back into shape. Kevin De Bruyne, offside flag will go up, although a little bit late. Here is an opportunity then. If he can strike here with Haaland, little ball roll inside, looking for options, not many going forward. Back to Ruud Gullit, the titan in midfield in the engine room. Here is Haaland then. tries to go for that pass inside again. Cut out well. Been really impressed by how calm and composed Ethan's been, particularly at the back.
Very composed, and I think that's one of Ethan's major positives in how he plays FIFA, is he is solid in every aspect, but he knows how to hold a game, and it's one of the things that a lot of FIFA players struggle with, is when you take that 2-0 lead. How many times have you seen a 2-0 lead thrown away and you lose it 3-2, or you tie a game 2-2 because you can't deal with the pressure that's coming from your opponent? But Ethan is handling it well. He's also holding on to the ball and restricting the chances here for Southampton, and it's a joy to watch.
Just trying to suffocate all of the air out of the room here, trying to make sure that Michael has nothing to build upon as he finally gets the ball back here. 76 minutes already gone. Time is very quickly running out. Getting a little bit desperate with some of those passes he's been trying to play. Again, Firpo being managed, handled by two players. Ball fired forwards once more, and Haaland almost found David Ginola on the inside. But as we head into the last 10 minutes or so here, a goal very much needed. Here is the opportunity then, fired inside. Eric Cantona, can he stop up? Finds Haaland, finds Ginola. Just couldn't apply the finishing touches.
You'd expect better, especially in those areas of the final third. Confirmation of a result in the Xbox leg, by the way. Southampton winning that one 2-0, so 3 points guaranteed.
Here is João Felix to maybe put this one beyond any sort of doubt. João Felix goes round Edwin van der Sar. 3-0 to Ethan and indeed Crystal Palace. So although the points might be shared, goal difference will favour Crystal Palace ever so slightly.
But as you say, points shared just because of the win on the Xbox side for Southampton. And I think going up against Crystal Palace, if they would have been told before, you know, we take 3 points, they take 3 points, we essentially just share it, it gets evened out, I imagine they would have taken that at the start of the day. But now with only 5 minutes remaining, 3 goals down, you need a miracle. You need more than a miracle to get back into this one. Unfortunately, you'd need Ethan to probably start scoring own goals, which is not going to happen in a competition of this standard.
But he might score more goals.
He could definitely score more goals.
João Felix on the ball now, out wide to Wout Weghorst. Manchester United legend, I will say. Here's Virgil van Dijk then to switch the play as we head into the latter stages now. And the job has been well and truly done by Ethan long before this stage.
How does a man become a legend at a club when he's only been there for less than a season?
Scored.
He did score a couple of goals. But certainly is an incredible player in-game as well. Just a great presence for sure, but with the ball going out of play, the inevitable is about to arrive. And you know, it's a good attempt from Michael Fisher in Southampton, but ultimately Ethan and Crystal Palace have dominated this game.
Perhaps a goal back though. Will be a little more than a consolation, defended once more by Ethan, and really that was thorough and it was professional from Ethan.
This is what I was expecting to see from our highest seed. This is what I was expecting to see from one of our best players in this competition. And Ethan, not only in the ePremier League, has been performing already, but this entire season throughout FIFA, Ethan has been up there when it comes to talking about finals, talking about winning. And I think that this is a very exciting year for him, and it's great to see him finally flourish. And maybe this could be the competition where he gets to hoist a trophy as an ePremier League champion. I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit just after one victory, but you know, he's up there. He's definitely in the conversation.
Now, I spoke about how well and how impressed I was at his defensive efforts, but I think he had 3 shots on target, all 3 goals. Absolutely clinical.
You've got to be clinical as well. You're not going to be presented with that many opportunities when you look at the competition that you're going to be going up against throughout today in the ePremier League and tomorrow, as we look back at some of the highlights and the replays of the goals that were scored. And it was really an impressive day, impressive start of the day, excuse me, for Southampton on the Xbox side, but it was all about Crystal Palace
and Ginola, and they're going to be mainstays in almost everybody's team going forward. You put the faith in the front men, and they've come out trumps for the boys in Crystal Palace and Southampton indeed today.
I would say that, you know, looking at what we saw from Southampton on the Xbox, there was still a high chance that Southampton could be one of the teams to progress. When you look at who is in Group A, there is a lot of tough matchups for everyone involved, and even though Crystal Palace favourites, there's still possibility that Crystal Palace may not even get through the group, right, with the competition that is there. So I'd say that you have to be switched on. You've got to make sure you're at least picking up the points on your side and on your console. Otherwise, fate is not in your hands, and just as in real football, that's not a position you want to be in.
And let's take a look at the groups and how they stand at this moment in time then. Brighton and Hove Albion will go top with 4 points. They're going to win and a draw on both consoles. And as you say, Crystal Palace and Southampton drawing level 3 apiece. Arsenal, your beloved Arsenal, and Aston Villa sitting in 4th and 5th and need massive improvements going into the second game.
Not used to seeing Arsenal so low down in the table. We're used to being on top, but Brighton...
4th is where you usually are, right?
I'm in many a year. But Brighton at the top is certainly an interesting one because Ethan played for Brighton just a few seasons ago in the ePremier League, and now will have to go up against his old club, as it were. It's what we see in the ePremier League. I mean, we see a lot of changes from players who will go from club to club, depending on how good they are in that season in FIFA.
Well, that's all we've got time for this first opening game. Don't go anywhere, though. Get yourself a cup of tea and a biscuit. We'll be back very shortly with some more gameplay.
Hello everybody and welcome to the ePremier League. I'm Samantha Miller and I am joined by the wonderful Alia Harvey, who is a FIFA player and caster, and today we will be taking you through Southampton against Aston Villa. It is set to be an incredible game. We can't wait to get things started. Alia, how excited are you to be here today?
I'm really excited to be here. This is my first time casting at the ePremier League, so I'm looking forward to the games that we have today. And so far, it's been really good for Southampton. You know, they have 3 points already in the bag, and this is going to be Villa's first game in their group. We've just pulled the table up for you here. As you can see, Southampton are currently third on the table, and with the way the group stages are working, it's the top 2 clubs of each group that go through to the knockouts tomorrow.
We are super excited to be here, like we just mentioned, and I can't wait to see how these two teams face up against each other. We've got the Xbox game coming up, which is Rowe Edition, his first ever ePremier League against Cameron. So it should be an interesting matchup, Alia.
Yeah, definitely, you know, and for Rowe Edition as well, it is his dream to play for Southampton, and he's doing it here at the ePremier League. You know, with the way this tournament works, sometimes you don't get to represent your favorite club, but, you know, for Rowe Edition, he's getting to do that, and his first game, he won. So it's an incredible start already to his tournament. I'm looking forward to this one.
Me too, and I have to say, Rowe Edition, is it third time lucky? Because he tried out for Southampton and got in the 3rd time. So I'm sure he is super hyped to be representing them today. And Aston Villa, Cameron, his partner, and he'll be looking forward to playing with someone for Aston Villa that are in the same organisation.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and this,
Konkai.
yeah, and it is Cameron's 2nd time as well competing at the Premier League. And for Southampton, the partner Michael, this is his 4th time competing at the Premier League. And between these 2 players, you know, all 4 players actually, none of them have got past the group stage. So they are going to have that desire in them to make the knockouts tomorrow.
I think there's going to be a real motivation here for this match, both wanting to get out the groups. And Southampton, Rowe Edition will be really pleased with how things have started for him.
Yeah, you know, to come into this tournament, it's your first time in ePrem, and to start off with a win, you've got all that pressure on you. Coming into this Villa game now, he's going to have that pressure, a little bit of pressure off him, especially that he has had a little bit of a warm-up. You know, Villa and all the players have been warming up all morning before the games they actually start playing. But, you know, when you switch to that competitive scene and actually playing in an actual match, Southampton will have the slight upper hand here.
Well, we have kicked things off. Both teams have set up, and it is Southampton that kicked things off with possession, just maintaining that composure. Mentioned that Rowe Edition will be delighted with that first win under his belt in the first game, but this is Aston Villa's first game. We've got Cameron playing here. Aston Villa will be looking to get that first win, but will it be Rowe Edition gets a second win under his belt? And just team switching possession here. It was Southampton keeping the ball, but now it's in the path of Aston Villa.
Yeah, you know, I think what both teams are sort of doing here is when you start off FIFA games, you sort of start off slowly. You know, you very rarely see players starting off quick, and it's to try and figure out how your opponent is going to play. And, you know, although Southampton do have 3 points in the bag already, Villa do have a lot of experience on their side. You know, Konkai, it's his first ePremier League, but he has competed in other high-level FIFA tournaments as well. So this is going to be a very end-to-end game.
And we can already see how the game has started. It's been end-to-end so far. It is Southampton breaking forward here with real pace. Are they going to try and get that cross into the box? It hasn't worked. And now Aston Villa, Cameron will go forward. Cameron is the experienced player out of the 2. Going down the left wing here. Gets it into the box. Will we see that first goal of the tournament into Hulle? And a shot from distance there. Will we see Cameron do that often in the game?
I think we will, you know. I think with FIFA, you have to take your chances wherever you can. You can't just, you know, do one type of, you know, one specific type of shooting. And I think that's what you're going to see, especially with the players that, you know, that can be used to compete in. You can only use ex-Premier League icon cards or hero cards or any current Premier League player. So we are going to see lots of different, you know, different players. And even you will see, for example, Haaland playing for, oh, got a pen.
There's a penalty now. Cantona to step up for Aston Villa, and it's fired into the top corner. And there it is. Aston Villa kick things off with a goal through Cameron, and it was absolute power and precision for that penalty. What a start for Aston Villa.
Yeah, what we are seeing as well, he scored that with the foot birthday Cantona. That is a new promo that only came out at 6 p.m. yesterday, so it is a very new card and the players haven't had much time to get used to it. But when there's a new promo, new icons coming out with different versions, it's going to be stronger and more powerful. So I'm not surprised that, you know, we are seeing Cantona's foot birthday card in game.
Aston Villa will try another attack here. Puts the ball into the box and nearly fell to Cantona again. And that is a great save. It will be an Aston Villa corner. Will they get their second of the game? De Bruyne swings it in. And it's so close to getting a second there. Aston Villa have had a couple of early chances now.
They have done, you know, and they do have the upper hand now with that pen, because Southampton are going to be chasing the game, but we are going to see Southampton chasing the game, but Villa are going to sort of relax a little bit, knowing they have a little bit of a cushion. But in FIFA, a one-goal cushion is never enough.
Do you think that's where experience shines through? The fact that Cameron's the more experienced player of the two and Rowe additions conceded early, but he might get one back here. Will he? Cantona again. Another great save in this game, and this time it will be a Southampton corner. It's in the path of De Bruyne. Goes back to Mo Salah. Starting again with Saliba at the back. Mo Salah, Cantona. Will Rowe addition be able to get that all-important equaliser? He's twisting and turning in the box, plays it into Ginola, and it's intercepted there by Aston Villa. Alia, should he have taken the shot earlier?
No, you know, I think there were too many players in the box, and I think one thing a lot of pro players will do is they hold on to the ball as long as they can until they know there's a clear shot, because a counter-attack can be so dangerous, especially in such high-level games like the ePREMIER League.
Oh, it's Haaland for Aston Villa. Close to a second goal there. Aston Villa with Cameron are on top as it stands. Rowe addition trying to get an equaliser. Had an opportunity not long ago. Possession is with Rowe addition and Southampton now. Will they be able to get a goal back? Let's wait and see. Just building up the play now.
Yeah, you know, I think Rowe addition after the penalty, he did get, you know, he was panicking a little bit, but there it is.
There it is, the equaliser. Rowe addition fires it into the back of the net. The equaliser was coming, he kept building the play up. And now it really is game on.
It is, you know, I think that's one thing to remember with FIFA. He did concede a pen at first, but, you know, and he was panicking a little bit afterwards, but because it's so early on in the game, patience is key, and I think he calmed himself down a little bit, and that's why we saw that equaliser from Rowe addition.
Oh, it's Cantona now for Aston Villa. And I think it's woken Aston Villa up a bit, Cameron. He wants to get back on top. Seeing that now. Ball played back into Haaland, utilising the width of the pitch, and you could just see Cameron is waiting for that opening to try and get another shot on target. We've seen plenty of shots in this first half so far between Southampton and Aston Villa, and Ginola will go out wide to Mo Salah. Will Southampton, Rowe addition, have gained some confidence from getting the equaliser? See if he can take the lead before the first half is up. And it's Hullet that has intercepted for Aston Villa. And I have to say, Alia, a real end-to-end game here. And it's not long now till the half-time mark. We're just into that extra time of the first half. It's De Bruyne for Aston Villa. Will there be Another goal. No, there won't. And that is the half-time whistle. And what a first half we've just seen, Alia. Interesting matchup. We mentioned that Rowe Edition, the less experienced of the two, his first ePremier League event. When it's your first ePremier League LAN event and you're actually at the studio, is there a lot of pressure that a player with less experience would feel?
Yeah, you know, LAN events are very different to competing at home because, you know, when you're at home, you're in the comfort of your own house. It's familiar, but when you're competing at LAN events, you're in a massive studio. You've got big cameras, lighting. You can hear the casters, the hosts, everything. Like, a lot of that does come into play. But when we just on the other side as well, the PlayStation game, we have Michael Fisher for Southampton and Konkai for Villa. That game at halftime is currently 0-0. So as it stands, both teams are going to walk away with 1 point each unless a club can score a goal to take the winner.
Well, things are really heating up here in this competition. It's Aston Villa's first game of the tournament, Southampton's second. And right now, it's 1-0 in this game. The second half has kicked off. And will it stay a draw, or will one of these two players get that all-important winner? It's Cantona switches the play. Lovely switch there. De Bruyne. Shot was blocked, but you can really see that Aston Villa have set up early in this second half to try and get that all-important winner.
Yeah, and you know, if we look at the stats at halftime as well, even though Southampton had the pen, Villa were attacking more, and their expected goals was at 1.7, and I believe that Southampton's was only at 0.2. So if we are going off the stats alone, we should see a Villa scoring first. But then again, in FIFA, anything can happen.
It's definitely about taking your chances. See that momentum is starting to build now with Rowe Edition. Southampton trying to twist and turn to create space for himself. It's with De Bruyne, plays it into Cantona. Mo Salah. You can see how desperately Rowe Edition wants that second goal. I think the equaliser really gave him that lift that he needed.
Yeah, and we need to remember as well, you know, he did win his first game and get all 3 points. And when the stakes are so high of only the top 2 teams from each group go through out of 5, every point counts. So the last thing either club wants is to drop 2 points here. And the best thing that can happen to Southampton and for Rowe is to win this game and have 6 points just from his side.
Well, Rowe Edition really wanted to play for Southampton. He actually said that he likes the philosophy of the club, the fact that they really build up academy players to play for Southampton in footballing terms, and that was something that really drew him into trying to play for Southampton's esports team, and he was absolutely ecstatic to finally make the cut. And I think because it's taken him a long time to get there, it means so much to him that you can see that everything's on the line and he's just giving it 100%. And he's got the ball now in the half to try and get that second goal. And you can see how much he wants it. And have you been impressed with Rowe Edition so far?
Yeah, you know, I think this has been a really, really good game. But we are going to switch over to the Xbox game now, where it is still 0-0.
Okay, so 0-0 so far. And in the other game, it's 1-0. So both currently drawing. A lot going on in these two games. And who's impressed you so far?
You know, I think it has to be, I would say Southampton. You know, I think they are, I wouldn't say necessarily the underdogs, because they do have Michael Fisher, who has, you know, competed in 4 out of 5 of these ePremier Leagues now. But you just, it's difficult to say, I think, because either different things can happen.
Well, we will see if anyone gets a winner with both drawing. Could just be a point for each, but they will want those all-important wins to try and secure a place out the group. You mentioned it was the top 2 that go through. See if Southampton could do it, and Southampton have just got a goal in one of the games, but it's still 0-0 in this one.
Yeah, it is, and I think we just need to clarify, the PlayStation game is on 2-1 currently. It's the Xbox game that is still on 0-0. So Rowe Edition and Cameron 0-0. Michael Fisher and Konkai 2-1.
Well, will we see a goal soon in this 0-0 matchup? Oh, nearly. Brilliant save by Van der Sar. A keeper a lot of players pick in their team. Now there will be a corner. Still waiting to see that first goal of the game. And it's Hullet. Plays it back to Vieira. And there it is! The first goal of the game. 1-0, Ginola, that special card that we know works so well for the FIFA players. And Aston Villa take that all-important lead in the 70th minute. It was a cracking finish.
Yeah, and it was Foot Fantasy Ginola as well, which is his new card in-game, his latest one, which only came out 2-3 weeks ago. So it is very, very recent. But what we did see there from Villa is the elastico in the box, which is very, very efficient this year, just to create that space and have a better angle at goal.
And Konkai plays Weekend League, and he's got so many wins under his belts. He's got hundreds of wins in a row. But I guess with Weekend League, you can play against different levels, whereas ePremier League, the way you have to qualify, you really do have to be the best. So we're seeing the best players here.
Yeah, you know, with Weekend League, I think there is a much wider skill gap. You know, you can come up against a player who isn't necessarily a pro, but in ePrem, you are competing against 39 other, in total 40, of the best players in the UK. So the stakes are much higher, the pressure is higher, because it's the best players. You know, you know who you're coming up against, rather than like Weekend League where you just don't know.
Well, this Xbox game is currently 1-0 to Aston Villa now. We are waiting for the deadlock to be broken. And now Southampton, Michael will try and go forward with Hullet. De Bruyne. Will we see a Southampton equaliser? Brilliant save by Van der Sar there. It's a player that a lot of people pick to be in goal, Alia.
Yeah, you know, I think if there's one icon card you have to choose as a keeper, it will always be Van der Sar. One, because he's so tall in game, and I think that's a massive, massive factor when choosing a keeper is their height. You will always try to go for the tallest one. But as it currently stands from this game, we are going to see each club walk away with 3 points, which means if Southampton can hold their win out, they are going to have 6 points on the board, and Villa will have 3.
Well, it's 1-0 to Aston Villa. Aston Villa break forward again. Do manage to get a corner from it. Will they be able to double their lead? We're about to find out. It's like, could be a short corner. No, it's a long one into the box. And now Southampton will be able to break on the counter-attack. Will they make use of this counter-attack? De Bruyne tries to play it through the middle, but it's intercepted. Aston Villa will try and get a second before the final whistle. Not long to go. Will they play for the last tackle? Will they be able to get a goal now? João Felix trying to get the ball into the box. And again, Southampton break up the play. Southampton going forward now on the counter-attack.
Yeah, and with the other game as well on PlayStation, Southampton did get another goal in the last few minutes, winning that game 3-1. So Southampton walk away and currently have 6 points on the table, but we still have about 5 minutes left on the Xbox game, and Southampton are going to pretty much go all-out attack to try and secure at least 1 point rather than walking away with nothing.
Well, we will wait and see if Southampton can get that late equaliser, or will Aston Villa walk away with the 3 points from this game. Not long left to go. Southampton playing for that final attack?
Yeah, definitely. You know, 2 minutes left in the game. They are going to attack, but they're going to be very, very careful. We're going to see a lot of possession-based play here and a final play into the box.
Southampton, they did have a chance there, didn't make use of it, and Aston Villa kicked the ball out. Bit of time wasting there.
Yeah, you know, I think you have to do what you have to do to secure the game, but that is unfortunate for Rowe Edition because he did win his first game, and although he's lost the second, I don't think he can really be very upset by that because he is coming up against Cameron, who's so experienced with FIFA. But across both sides, I think that was really, really good games. 3 points for each club. What do you think, Sam?
I think Rowe Edition can be very proud of that first win in his first ePremier League, and then it's about maintaining that composure, keeping the belief. And Rowe Edition actually said that he really believes that he can go all the way in this competition. He's won one, he's lost one, but Cameron, I just think that he's so experienced now that it really did show in that match.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing, is experience with Pro FIFA. Cameron has been competing for a few years now, and that makes a huge, huge difference, because even though you go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, when you have experience, you know what to do in those sorts of situations. And if you are holding the lead, you know what to do to hold that lead and not lose it. So I think experience will play a massive part here, but I think we can't underestimate the underdogs, because we have seen in the history of the ePremier League, we have seen underdogs winning the entire thing.
We have, and that is what is so special about the ePremier League. Anyone can win it. We've seen different winners across the board. No one's won this competition twice, so actually a lot of the winners are trying to win it for the second time. And we want to see the group standings and how that leaves Southampton and Aston Villa. So it's Crystal Palace at the top and Southampton in second in Group A, and Aston Villa, they're now bottom after this result, but then they have played one game. Do we think Aston Villa looking likely to get through the groups with the amount of experience they have?
I think if I had to choose two teams coming out of Group A, it'll probably be Palace and Southampton, to be honest, just because of the run that they're currently on. And, Villa are bottom of the table, but their goal difference is only -1. So really, if they go into their next game and secure all 3 points, it'll put them in a really, really strong position. But at the minute, Palace are dominating this group.
Well, we haven't spoke much about Arsenal. They could be another team to do it. I think what's so great about this group is anyone could go through. It is the top two, but anyone can beat anyone we're seeing so far today. But we do have some brilliant fixtures coming up before we take you to a quick break. But next up, it will be Crystal Palace against Brighton Hove Albion.
and welcome back to the ePremier League finals here in London, England. We are back for another very exciting round of games. What to expect from this round?
I mean, this is the round where it's crunch time, pretty much, for some of these teams. We've seen some of the results coming in that haven't been favourable to some, obviously been very favourable on the other side of things. And now you get to the point in the groups where the games are starting to run out very, very quickly. More quickly for some teams than others who are struggling to pick up points at the moment. I feel that's the situation we're going to find ourselves in our next game. We have Arsenal taking on Southampton. Arsenal didn't have the best of rounds last time, Leah. Southampton, they picked up a few points.
Definitely. I think, as you mentioned, this is do or die for a lot of these players. You win, you stay, you lose, you go home. And so these players have everything on the line. They want to be able to split that £30,000 prize pool. They want to secure a playoff spot if possible, but we'll see.
Yeah, not everyone can win. That's the great thing about the tournament, right, where you can only have one champion. And the first step to becoming a champion, of course, is getting out of the group stage. And that's the main theme for this games that we're going to be seeing right in front of us. And I think for Arsenal, like I mentioned, this is now a must-win game. We mentioned how it's getting to crunch time. And for Arsenal, they need points on the board here. Or you could almost argue they need 6 points on the board here just to build that confidence back, to really throw them up those leaderboards, because it's been a bit of a slow start for them. And you can't afford to be slow for too long, because otherwise you find yourselves knocked out.
Definitely. Well, Arsenal doing very well in the Premier League, but struggling a little bit today off the start in the ePremier League. So like you mentioned, looking to at least take home something, but a lot of pressure on them because they need something or else their weekend's done.
Oh, 100%. And if you're looking at the game we're going to be following, this is going to be the PlayStation 5 game between these two players. So for Arsenal, you have Rowe, you have Michael Fisher on the other side for Southampton. And to give you a little bit of backstory about these two players, you know, on one side, Arsenal, quarterfinals, made it that far last year in the ePremier League. So for Rowe, he's got experience at this level. He's managed to do it before. Also, shout out to Barwell FC. Missed the game today for he's a semi-pro footballer. They missed the game today to be here in the ePremier League. I'm sure the boys are supporting him at home as well. They're going to want to see him come through on this. On the other side, you have Michael Fisher representing Southampton. Now, he's a Scotland international. A lot of pedigree to his game as well. And he's a player that we've seen obviously compete in the ePremier League before as well. So this is a very, I feel like this could be quite a tight affair between the two, especially when you add in that little bit of spice of what's on the line and the fact that the leaderboards are so tight and it's kind of, you know, getting to that point where you need points.
Definitely. I think at this level, they know what they need to do. It's been a few games now, so a lot of the nerves, maybe they've shaken off. The lights don't feel as hot, as bright, but there's going to be a lot of pressure. There's, like you said, a lot on the line.
It certainly is. It's going to be interesting to see what players are going to step up in-game, as well as what players are going to step up on that stage that we're looking at right now. But we're moments away from kickoff here, Leah, and you can almost feel like the expectation in the room, everything got a little bit more quiet. If you notice that, everything got a little bit more serious after the first round of games or so. Everybody all of a sudden realised that games are running out. This might be our last opportunity here in the Premier League to pick up points. And the one thing we don't want to do is watch the rest of the games from the sideline. We want to be involved in those matches.
Well, as you mentioned, it's only one game, 90 minutes, no extra time, no penalty shootout in the group stages. So it's do or die. There's not a lot of time for mistakes. There's not a lot of time to concede goals. So these players are going to need to do what it takes to take home at least a point.
Well, at the start of this game, you can see already high pressure from Southampton, really trying to maybe put the pressure on, knowing that Arsenal didn't have the best of rounds last time. And I think that's quite a smart thing to do. Try and win that ball back high up the pitch and really trying to pressure your opponent into a mistake, especially after they might have come off the back of a few disappointing games like we've just mentioned. But Arsenal trying to do the same at the other end. So I think first goal is vital here for both sides. Southampton can feel settled. For Arsenal, it's almost a must-be first goal.
A potential chance here over the top through ball, but defended well by Arsenal. We mentioned before that Rowe played last year and made it to the quarterfinals for Aston Villa. So for those of you watching at home on Sky, similar to the Premier League, you can make those transfers between teams. And so Rowe did exactly that. He went from Villa last year to Arsenal this year, and he's looking to at least get to the quarterfinals again to kind of maintain his record from the previous year. But yeah, a lot of work to do.
Well, that ball's been won back high up the pitch. And, ooh, you saw the idea, trying to just feed Erling Haaland in behind there. But defended it well just to extend that leg and cut that pass out. But you can see already, there seems to be gaps appearing at the back for both teams. Runs being made in behind. There's another one, that time from Ginola. But this time it was Van Dijk who got the interception, but turned over possession a little bit too easily there.
Definitely a little bit of a cagey game so far. A few mistakes, a few missed passes. Something that you wouldn't typically see at this level, but I think under the kind of pressure that they are, it's very easy to lose a little bit of composure.
It certainly is. And just holding possession, I mean, we saw it in the last game between Manchester City and Liverpool, right? How both players valued the possession of that ball so much in order to, you know, really pressurise their opponents. If you don't have the ball, you feel under pressure. There's also been a goal on the other side of things at the moment. We're mentioning the PS5 game, but there's been a goal on the Xbox between Southampton and Arsenal, and it looks like it might have come on the side of the Saints. It's Haaland into De Bruyne, back to Haaland. And it's not very often, Leah, that you see Erling Haaland miss on the real pitch or the virtual pitch at that sort of range.
Not at all. A very common denominator, a common foot item that we see across most teams, because as we know, Erling Haaland in front of goal. A potential chance here again for the Saints, but defended well by Arsenal and Kai Rowley again.
That time it really seemed to open up for Mo Salah there on that left foot, and you almost expect him to beat the defender. He had that half a yard that we've been talking about so much. And in FIFA, you're always looking for that half a yard inside the 18-yard box, just to shift the weight of the defender the wrong way so you can test the goalkeeper. It looked like Salah had the opening.
Ooh, a great ball then.
The defender managed to just about close it down, and we'll see a comfortable save at the other end.
Very comfortable. We see a lot of back and forth, a lot of handover of possession from both sides. Like we mentioned before, a little bit cagey, a few misplaced passes. I know we've said this a lot today, but 90 minutes is not a lot of time in the FIFA esports world. Usually these tournaments at this high of a level, especially on the global stage, are played over 2 legs, but the 2 legs are now separated between teammates. So while this game is happening, his opponent is playing another game as well. Cantona with the attempt at a shot on goal, but defended well by Kai Rowley. Cantona, another item that we've been saying very frequently today.
Yeah, he seems to be having big influences on the game as well. The new foot birthday item. He's got a 5-star weak foot, so he hits it just as well on both sides, as well as the 5-star skills, but not for the first time. We're seeing possession given away high up the pitch here. It's Arsenal on the attack, but again, just that final ball at the moment, not quite finding the intended target, and a couple of shaky moments not being punished, still at 0-0 here.
And Southampton on the front foot again. We're nearing the 30th minute, getting close to halftime. A goal for either side would be very helpful for either of them. It would add to the momentum going into the second half, especially with everything on the line. If Arsenal don't win this, then it might be curtains for their weekend, unfortunately.
Well, we saw the first goal of the other tie that's going on between these two clubs. Well, the good news for Arsenal fans is that even though Southampton got the lead, that's been wiped off, because it has been an equaliser going in, so that game is now tied up at 1-1 as that heads into the 30th minute.
Southampton with the corner, but misplaced again to Arsenal. But can Arsenal do anything on the counter-attack here? Another misplaced pass. And another mistake again. There's a little bit of space for Mo Salah to get in behind. Ooh.
That's what we call a heavy tackle. That's a solid tackle. That's where you realise. And oh my goodness, I think that might have been a red card as well. Ooh. If I caught that one wrong. So I thought that's kind of okay, we're going to slow the play down here. We'll take the book in maybe. But the referee's made the decision to send Saliba off. So that's going to completely change things now.
It's a really perhaps exciting moment for Arsenal and Kai Rowley, now knowing that they're going against 10 men instead of 11.
Especially when you need those points, Leah. If you're desperate for points, you will take anything. If it's a goal, great. Half a chance, great. Player sent off, early bath, take that 100% of the time.
A player sent off in the 36th minute is a lot of time for Arsenal to be able to capitalize on them being down a man, but a lot of time to do some extra defending for Southampton. They're now missing a player in the midfield, is what I assume would happen, where they would move one of their center backs on the bench to that position and lose one in midfield. So there's some space now.
I think Patrick Vieira's just been brought on at that centre-back position, but even with 10 men, you can still cause some problems at the other end. And here's Mo Salah, and 10 men almost took the lead there. A great save from the goalkeeper once more.
Mohamed Salah with another chance to Ginola in the box, looking for that space. Arsenal's defense splitting relatively easy, but Cole said nope.
Very nervy moments there for both teams. I mean, Arsenal, they get the man advantage with the red card for Southampton, and then up the other end, Mo Salah has a golden chance in front of goal. Didn't time it perfectly, didn't get the maximum power and accuracy on the shot that you can get from those positions, but It was certainly enough to trouble the goalkeeper, to worry Arsenal. And now, can Arsenal make the most of this? You mentioned 90 minutes, not a long time in the FIFA esports world, but if you've got 10 men for almost 45 of that, you have to take that opportunity and get that first goal going your way.
This is the last possible chance of the game here before halftime. Can Ginola find some space and get that into the box? He can't. We are still all square at halftime.
All square at halftime, and this has completely changed the game now. You think in Southampton, if they can come out of this one maybe with a point, they'd be very, very happy, right? Get 10 men into the full-time whistle with something to come out with to celebrate. You're going to be happy with that. There were still chances, I will say, on the counter-attack for Southampton. But I feel like on the other side of the stage there, Kyle Riley, he's got some decisions to make now. You know you're playing against 10 men. Do you want to take a risk? Do you want to change formation? Send a few more players forward? Knowing that on the counter-attack, you're not going to have the numbers swarming back against you. Or do you just kind of try and play this game out? Do you just keep to the tactic that you've been comfortable with, that got you to the big stage here at the ePremier League? And do you back yourself in your ability inside that box to create the chance when it matters and then try and hold on to that 1-goal advantage?
I think these are all things that they'll be discussing at halftime, being directly beside their opponent, as you can see, which allows them to communicate between matches at halftime, even during the game, during some pauses, to be able to kind of align their tactics and decide as a team how they want to move forward. How do you think, and for those watching at home, obviously FIFA esports is virtual, but how do you think Kyle Rowley, being a semi-professional footballer, can relate some of that real-life footballing IQ into the virtual pitch?
I think a lot of it is going to come down to concentration in the big moments, right? We always talk about moments of brilliance in, like you're saying, whether it's him playing semi-pro football or in FIFA, but it's also the concentration to make sure you don't make a mistake. And in a game that's so close between two players, you cannot afford to take your eye off the ball for 1 second. You can't afford to not track a running behind, and it looks like he might have just done that for a second. Ginola trying to twist and turn. You see the McGeady cancel. He's putting all the tricks out at the moment at one end of the pitch, Southampton, Michael Fisher, but just can't break down that defence. And on the counter-attack, he has to be careful, knowing he doesn't have that man on the pitch.
The Saints and Michael Fisher not looking too pressured that they're down a man, still creating chances, still getting into that box and trying to find that space with confidence. Michael Fisher, we haven't spoken a lot about yet, but has performed on some of the biggest global stages, playing in FGS. Started off a little bit slow in FIFA 23 in his global series competitions, but maybe this is his opportunity to prove to himself and to his teammates that he can do it. He can compete similarly to last year and the year before.
Some players thrive under the lights, and I'm sure that he'll want to prove that he is one of those at the moment. And I've got to say, he's managed the game incredibly well ever since that red card. It hasn't been too much for Arsenal, hasn't given away too many spaces in behind, and it still looked pretty dangerous when those counter-attacking opportunities have come up. And when he gets in and around this area, just on the edge of that 18-yard box, he's already shown that he's got a few skill cancels, he's got the ability to create half a yard for a strike, and it only takes one chance in FIFA for you to win a game, and he still looks dangerous when he does get into those positions, so he could nick this one away.
And we just got word that in their teammates match, as we can see here, Arsenal taking the lead 2-1 with a great ball in, squared from Ginola, and an easy goal by none other than Eric Cantona again.
Yeah, that man once again. It looked like a little bit of a failed offside trap, or an offside trap that was beaten on that occasion, that gives Arsenal the lead. And we talked about how vital this round of games is for Arsenal, and maybe this chance is vital as well. And Arsenal, we've just seen them go up on the other side of things, but in this game in front of us right now, the 11 men versus the 10 do take the lead, and it's the left foot of Mo Salah that does it, but you can see how much that means. Now it's about focus, concentration. Do not let this lead slip. And with 90 minutes to still be completed in this game, we've seen that Michael Fisher can create. And Kyle Riley's going to be very careful in these final moments now.
Definitely, you can see the shakes of the head from Michael Fisher, knowing what has just happened in that game, especially with 10 men. It might be a little difficult for him to come back. There's still some time, but again, 90 minutes, not a whole lot of time. That flies by, especially when you're in the chair, you have the controller in your hands. You're paused, you can see he's nervous, he's shaking, he has everything on the line now.
Yeah, we talked about mentality a lot in the previous games that we've been watching, and how it is so difficult sometimes when you're playing on this stage, playing FIFA to keep a level head in certain situations. I'm sure that he was probably thinking for a good 10 in-game minutes after that red card. How was that red card? That's a booking. I should not be down to 10 men, but the decision's already been made, and you have to just play the game on as the referee has already made that call. And that's what separates some of the best in the world sometimes, being able to just reflect on that moment and think, hey, well, there's nothing I can do about it. What do I do moving forward? And now he knows what the job is. It's almost become simpler now. Even with 10 men, I need to score a goal. I need to get back into this. And it almost feels like Kyle, knowing that he needs the pressure of these 3 points, he's got to be extremely careful at the back. And if he can create a second, I think you'll see almost a celebration based more on relief than anything.
Definitely. Well, we've seen a little bit of an injection of confidence with Kyle Rowley and his play style. He's going into tackles hard now. He's pressuring a lot higher up the pitch. But as we've seen before, and as we know as FIFA players all quite well, the more pressure you make, the more space you make, which is exactly what Michael Fisher and Southampton are looking for right now.
Well, it's going to be Firpo using that pace on that far side. Haaland's inside the box here. Can he drive one across goal? Is there anyone going to be there? He gets a lot of fortune falling his way, but you have to say maybe on the balance of things with that red card still in the back of our minds, was that fortune that fell his way to tie this game up 1-1. Van der Sar got a piece of it, but unfortunately the pieces fell back to Erling Haaland, and like we mentioned, 1-1 now. And that was the one thing that Arsenal fans did not want. They have the man advantage. They got that lead that they were so desperate for, but now they've got to do it all again.
Well, you mentioned several times this game and in previous games that we've watched today how important composure in front of goal is, and specific to this game with 10 men in front of goal is, and specific to this game with 10 men, you mentioned that Kyle Rowley would need to maintain some of that mentality, some of that composure to not crumble at the back. And unfortunately, a little out of his control because Van der Sar didn't get the full touch on the ball, but to be able to avoid that chance altogether in that space that Michael Fisher had, you need to maintain some of that composure.
I think you saw his reaction to that goal as well. I think it's a really good time to talk about that because there's a shake of the head. There's a little bit of a, I can't believe that's gone back to the striker. But again, the goal isn't going to be chalked off. However much you complain about it, it's still going to exist. It's still going to be 1-1. So now it's down to him to put that behind him in the same way that Michael Fisher did for Southampton a few moments ago with the red card. Advantage, remember, he can go forward and maybe it's going to be Cantona who can answer back straight away. But this time it's Michael Fisher that holds strong in defence. And the game started to open up a little bit here, Leah.
Definitely, you can see again that injection of confidence now. Michael Fisher knowing that despite being down 10 men, he can score a goal, he can get in behind, he can find that space, and that's exactly what he needs to be able to do it again. And we can see some space here. It's a 2-on-1 situation before the defense of Arsenal come in to support. But again, a little bit of loss of composure, perhaps a misplaced or misjudged pass, rather.
Well, now we're into the last 10 minutes of this game. And this kind of time of the game is the danger time for both of these players. A goal here could be a winning goal. It could be one's the difference between 1 point and 3 points, and 3 points and none. But it's actually going to be Southampton who come away with that ball. The attack really was not a well-constructed one, but now we're seeing the ball given away. And this is what I mean. The game is starting to open up here.
We're seeing a lot of back and forth between the two sides. You know, if I didn't know, if it wasn't very clearly indicated, or if I didn't count, there's not a lot of space. Michael Fisher, like you mentioned, is managing this game really well, and it wouldn't seem as though he is playing down a man.
I have to agree with you. It's not felt like a 10 versus 11 game, and you're obviously going to lose a player somewhere on the pitch, but if you can keep on FIFA that kind of mid-block, those 4 defenders, maybe even the 3 centre-backs, depending on what formation you're going to play, and those 2 central midfielders, that space is going to be wide. So even if you work it into the box, you're going to have to work hard to get past that block of players. Well, maybe it's going to be a extra time bit of magic here from Southampton, but Vidic steps in.
Vidic, another very common theme, a common item that we've been speaking about today, but the game does end all square at 1-1, which in these 2 games, as far as we know, we've had no further updates, does give Arsenal the lead over Southampton.
You can see on the other side of things now, we're kind of looking over Kyroli's screen, to his teammates. We'll get in and find out what that score is like. We were talking about just a moment ago to see who's going to come out of this fixture with the maximum amount of points. But one thing we can guarantee is that score that you can see just over the shoulder of Michael Fisher there for Southampton, and that is both points being shared up 1-1. But it was kind of a game filled with some real big incidents, moments of heat, that tackle that went in that Saliba was dismissed for, and then the equaliser that was kind of a little bit fortune going the way with the ball falling back to Erling Haaland, and it was an interesting one for sure, very entertaining.
Definitely very entertaining, and I think although perhaps that game didn't go the way that Kyroli wanted it to go, for his personal sake, having Arsenal come out ahead with the points between both matchups, between both players, I think he'll be confident with that going into the next game.
Yeah, I agree. I think in these fixtures, especially with the groups as well, there's going to be so many games going in, out. It's so many games just like happening after and after and after. And coming out of any game, you don't mind how you come out of the game as long as you come out of it with points. You don't mind any, a lucky goal going your way. If you get a player sent off and you still manage to get 3 points, great, fantastic. Yep. It's about getting out of the groups, and that's what it's all about for these players. And it's those fine margins that are deciding it.
Definitely. Well, speaking of groups, we will be able to see shortly a roundup of all of the groups and how all of those matches went. But yeah, it's I think, like you mentioned, a very cagey affair. A lot happened in the first 30 minutes, a lot of back and forth, a lot of misplacement of passes, a lot of mistakes from both sides. Obviously, the biggest, most memorable mistake being the red card. Is that a yellow to you or red?
That's a yellow for me. I mean, I'm of the old school defending, school. If that's a 50-50, it's 50-50. Yeah, he didn't get the ball, fine. Maybe he was clean through on goal. But I think where it was on the pitch was a little bit high up for me to give a booking. There was covering players.
Is it because it was Saliba?
And because it was Saliba, yeah. Arsenal fan.
But yeah, like I said, I think that will give them confidence going into the next game. And I think that, Kyroli should be proud of the performance despite maybe perhaps not getting the full 3 points that he could have got. I do think, however, he feel a little bit of frustration, a little disappointment, given that he had a red card. He was up against a team with 10 men, and he wasn't able to come out with the 3 points.
Yeah, I think we have got a roundup ready now. Actually, we're going to jump into some of the roundups that have gone down in the other groups. You can see this is a game between Man City and Fulham. Man City already won up in this game, Leah, and it looks like it might be 2. And guess who scored once again? It's that man, Henrik Cantona, who has been on the score sheet more than once today. Felix going through on goal here, which did manage to pull one back, but then we move over to see after Man City did take those points home. Wolves looking pretty comfortable in this one, Leah. 4-1 up at this point against Brentford. The
same man that we have said several times, Erling Haaland, and a similar goal to the two we saw in our game for the equalizer. Another one here, we have Villa and Brighton. Julian Alvarez in the box with the Trivela, the ball rolled Trivela into goal. And Fulham City, Kyle Walker through to Rowe into space in behind. He finds the middle. And a little bit of a deflection.
Nice finish from Cantona there in the near post. Again, that Trivela shot so strong still in the game, especially at that near post if you can get the angle. But this game was back and forth. You can see the Villa went 2-1 up. Brighton answer back almost immediately. And then you can see 83rd minute. Harry Kewell through on goal. Beautiful little hit with a ball roll. And that is going to be the winning goal that you can see there. Aston Villa take all 3 points. They win that game 3-2.
We can take a look at the results here. Seeing those matchups on Xbox in round 4, Aston Villa leading Brighton 3-2. Southampton trailing Arsenal 2-1. Fulham leading 2-1 against Manchester City, and Wolves 1-0 Brentford.
And then we move from the Xbox to the PlayStation, where we have our results coming in as well. Brighton, no goals to report between them and Aston Villa. Arsenal 1-1. We just saw that game live on our screens. And then Manchester City 3-3. A bit of a thriller between City and Fulham, actually ending up 3 goals apiece. And Wolves, that is we'll call that a devastating win over Brentford, 6-1. That is the kind of result you want to see.
Taking a look at Group A and see how everyone match up. 13 points for Aston Villa. Previously, you would have seen Aston Villa trailing the bottom of the table, but now they have gathered all points from that last match to lead the table.
And then we'll move on to Group B and see how the standings are looking here. I mean, Liverpool looking almost flawless, yet to lose a game, 2 draws, but that is everything you want to see from 2 of the, I would say, favourite players coming into this tournament in Diogo and Tex. Fulham, though, good points coming in from them, but Brentford struggling a little bit, but still got some games to play here, Leah. They've got some work to do.
A lot of work to do, indeed. A lot of games left to play. However, like we mentioned before, we're getting into the do or die time. People need to get those points. They need to win those games, or else it's curtains, unfortunately. And with that in mind, there are lots of games up next, so make sure you do not go anywhere, and we will be back very shortly for round 5.
Welcome back to the ePremier League, everybody, and no messing about now. We are straight back into the action as we are going to see Southampton taking on Brighton here in Group A. It's going to be a PlayStation game between Michael Fisher and Marley, so we're going to have to see who comes out on top. Southampton, we just saw scrape a point away from Arsenal in one of their fixtures, having gone down to 10 men. We're going to have to see if there's going to be a little bit more fortune going their way this time around. But off the break here, it's Brighton on the attack, and it might be a very early chance, a very early goal, as Ginola gets the shot away, but Virgil van Dijk just got the edge of it and managed to take the sting out of it before Van der Sar managed to get a very, very comfortable save. Very, very promising signs early on there for Southampton. Oh, excuse me, for Brighton, I should say. As now we're going to see Southampton building from the back, Leah, and it was a very exciting start to the game. We almost saw a chance and a goal in the first few moments there.
Oh, wow. 6 minutes already? Exciting. Another matchup that we've seen previously with their respective counterparts.
Because Brighton seems to be controlling the pace of this game completely at the moment, and it's a bit of a struggle at the moment for Southampton to get out. The possession being dominated, and once again you can see an opportunity maybe to fire this ball into Haaland. It will be done. The finish is almost perfect, but oh my goodness. I was about to say, almost perfect isn't good enough unless your goalkeeper decides that that shot deserved to cross the line and lets it in himself.
You can feel Southampton's heart rate just spike significantly after
mine
that
went up.
almost mistake. Yeah. Junior Firpo, another very common foot item that we've seen, a relatively new one, came out just recently, but a hero among opponents, it seems.
Just that offers everything you want from a fullback on this game. He's got good defensive stats, but also has the pace and now has the 5-star skills to go alongside it, which means that he's no longer just a defender. He can also create going forward. And the fullback positions, we know, whether it's a 3-back, a 5-back, or a solid 4 at the back, the fullbacks are always kind of the point of the start of the attack, as we see once again Firpo being that player now for Southampton. And Southampton starting to grow into this game. I feel maybe they could count themselves a little bit lucky to be here at 0-0 and all tied up, but now that that early pressure has subsided a little bit from Southampton, maybe it's time for them to build an attack.
We almost had there, but defended well by Vidic, another very common name that we've been saying over the course of the last few matches.
Nemanja Vidic certainly, as you say, done his job every time he's been called upon. Can't quite say the same, especially for our Southampton fans after what we saw from William Saliba in the last leg. Maybe that was the reason why he isn't fancied by some players, but is by others. A little bit of a rash tackle that we saw ended in a red card, but Southampton, after, like I mentioned, a very shaky start, certainly grow into this. You're seeing Firpo being that focus of attack once more on that far side, which is going to come across and knock the ball out. But possession high up the pitch into this final third, still in the hands of Southampton.
Southampton, as you mentioned, looking to come back after that last game. Arsenal taking all of the points across both consoles. Southampton looking to redeem themselves in this match. As we mentioned previously today, and as Sansa has probably already mentioned, the further we get in the group stages, the more do or die it becomes, the more points they need and the more critical they are. Because if it doesn't, you don't. Oh, and another mistake there, a giveaway in the other game. Southampton leading 1-0, which, as we've seen previously, both teammates are sat beside each other, so no communication is going on between them. Gives a little bit of confidence in this match.
Yeah, it certainly does. If you know that your teammates just scored a goal, you're sat right next to them on the main stage, so it's going to put a smile in your face. It's going to put a bit of a pep in your step, and all of a sudden, when you go forward, you might think, hey, I can take a few more risks here. I can express myself a bit more in and around that 18-yard box. And Brighton now looking to maybe quell the celebrations from the other side of the stage of Mudryk inside the box.
Moves there to be able to create some space, has some, but Saliba, the man of the hour in the last match, defends that well. Southampton on the counter now, looking to try and break the deadlock before halftime. Again, I feel like a broken record, said this a few times, but having that momentum going into halftime, being able to pause, breathe, and regain some of that confidence going into the second leg would be really helpful for both.
Certainly would be. The mental reset is something you need. I mean, FIFA Esports is such a mentally testing game. You have to be full concentration. You cannot let it slip. One pass, one defender moved out of the position that you want them to be in, and all of a sudden you find yourself one goal down. And that's the real kind of test when it comes to these big games. Can you stay full concentration for the 90 minutes? Can you look for that mistake from your opponent in the moment that their concentration might break? And at the moment, after a little period of good play from Southampton where they started to get back into this game, the pattern has resumed now. Brighton been on the attack, and Southampton just camped on the edge of their box, but Rudhulit wins that ball back, and now there's a counter-attack opportunity.
You mentioned something really important, actually, is being able to capitalize on mistakes. Obviously, at this level, at such a high level, with such high skill level between players, it's really, really, really important and really critical that they're able to capitalize on those mistakes, because in some cases, those are the only chances that their opponents will get throughout the match. And I think that that's where that mental kind of, capacity comes in, maintaining that composure to be able to fully take advantage. Potential chance here, looking for the space. Ginola in behind, maintains that possession, has a quick shot, but saved well by Van der Sar.
Yeah, really good work there. A few skill moves coming out. The party certainly started for Brighton. You saw the McGeady cancel. It's a great way to kind of spin 180 inside the box and get that shot away when your back is to goal. You saw a few ball roll scoops, all of the combinations being put together from the five-star skillers, and unfortunately it wasn't enough to break the deadlock. And at half-time here, we're still tied up at 0-0, but you have to say, I think Mudrik's been very dangerous on that right-hand side for Brighton. Certainly been the creator in a lot of good opportunities.
Definitely. You have the quick, skillful Mudrik on that side, and then you have Junior Firpo creating on the left side. So it allows for attacks on both sides, which, coming up against an opponent, if you can predict what side your opponent is attacking on, it's easier to defend. It's easier to potentially bring more players and pressure, as we see in real-life football. Teams rather, almost taking advantage of the sides that are stronger or weaker. But in this case, both relatively equal when attacking.
I'll just give you an update on the other game as we go back into the second half of our featured game on the PlayStation 5. Brighton versus Southampton on the Xbox. Still a goal advantage to Southampton. So Brighton with some work to do there. And you can say the same in this game. With how tight the Xbox leg is, the PlayStation game cannot be separated at the moment. And apart from, I would say, a kind of half chance that we've seen at one end from Brighton, not been a game that's been littered with chances. It's been just kind of patient build-up, but no real strikes in vain at goal.
It's interesting because it's a very good tactic to kind of maintain possession, not make any, rash decisions, rash challenges, rash attacks in the interest of maintaining that possession and not giving it away. However, in a one-leg feat where you only have 90 minutes, sometimes it adds pressure to the latter stages of the game when then you have, 15 or 20 minutes to all-out attack instead of, kind of dispersing that attack and that offense throughout the entire match.
Yeah, I think the one-legged aspect of this, the fact that we have 90 minutes to decide where the point goes, really does change the dynamic that we're used to seeing in FIFA Esports. Usually it's two legs, where you get time to adjust to your opponent, but this one is like, okay, I feel like I've only just got into the game and got a read of it. Now I think I need to change something. Do I want to go more aggressive? Do I want to try and progress and take 3 points, or am I happy with one? I kind of love the fact that we have that dynamic that forces the players' hands a little bit more, especially as we get into the latter rounds, because if you're chasing points and all of a sudden you find yourself in a position with only 2 games to go where you need points, you have to go attacking more early on. And that's going to, completely change your game plan, how you want to approach the game. And if you're on the other side of that, and a team's been kind of a bit slow out the gates in their group games, and then all of a sudden they need points, and you're playing against this hyper-aggressive press, and they're throwing players forward, that could throw you off your game, and all of a sudden you can find yourself on the losing end of things.
Yeah, it's a really, really unique atmosphere in terms of the format of the tournament being just the one leg and 90 minutes, but obviously being right in the cubicle with your opponent and your teammate. There are potential chance here from Southampton, maintains that possession while being tackled by Vidic, but Vidic does get there in the end and defends well.
One of my favourite skill moves in all of FIFA there we saw on display for just a second. That fake drag back is just, when you nail it and you send a defender the wrong way, it's a beautiful looking thing. But here's Haaland. No skill moves needed apart from the step overs as the man with the longest legs on FIFA, outside of Patrick Vieira, I will say, manages to burst his way through on goal, but not any stronger side there, and that was probably the best chance we've seen in the game.
I would agree. A little bit of goalkeeper movement from Van der Sar there. To be able to just tap that out. Brighton still maintaining some of that possession. We saw a corner, and now we saw a throw in deep into Southampton's end, but nothing crazy. No clear-cut chances besides just that one. Southampton and is on the attack. We saw Junior Firpo dive in there, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about mistakes in space. Taking your defender in like that opens up all of this space for Brighton to be able to attack on that side, and that's what we saw there. Unfortunately, Southampton wasn't able to capitalize, which is something else we've mentioned, but I think nearing the end of the game we'll start to see more of those situations.
I like the idea from that attack though, having won the ball back, got into space, tried the player lock to send that player to manually control the run of Ginola inside the box. And by doing that, he can pull away from that centre back. He was just looking for the cross in to try and beat the defender, but the only thing that stopped Ginola having a free header on goal there was that player getting that interception and getting that ball away. But this time he's looking for a little bit of a spicy German cross. That's something you see a lot in the competitive FIFA scene, sending that midfielder on a late run into the box and trying to pick him out as the overloaded player, but this time not going to work out. Defender did well to read it, make that interception once more, but again, it's Southampton now who are coming into this game. Mudryk being the creator once more, but this game has kept, the momentum swung both ways. Sometimes you've seen Southampton having periods of success in the game, getting inside that 18-yard box, but it's been Brighton as well who have had their moments too.
I mentioned before that we might see some changes in tactics or some changes in play style nearing the 75th minute mark with 15 minutes left. And obviously we do see a pause queued up by Southampton to make some changes. Obviously Mudryk was injured on the pitch, so he's been taken off for Martinelli, but Martinelli injecting some of that pace, fresh legs, someone that can get in behind. He's got the skill moves, he's got everything that Southampton might need to be able to find that space and score a goal.
And on the other side, you're seeing Erling Haaland being introduced as well, and he's just going to be a bulldozer, especially against a fullback that might be tiring a little bit as well. If you can get a ball in behind one of the fullbacks and you've got a fresh Erling Haaland running onto it with the pace and the strength that he has in FIFA, he's certainly going to be able to cause some problems. But speaking of causing problems, you saw the reverse elastico there from João Felix, trying to just buy enough space for a shot to be executed, but well read by the defender. And again, that's just the presence of Van Dijk and Vidic in those positions. They've got such big leg span, almost like, you know, a bird would have wingspan, that they can cover so much space inside the 18-yard box.
We're seeing a lot more pressure from both sides on both attacks. And a great ball in. Can he get there in time? Martinelli, the man that we were speaking about before, with those fresh legs and the pace that he has, but he doesn't, unfortunately. He loses possession to Vidic again.
I'd love to see Vidic's stats that are up so far in this tournament, like successful tackles, his successful tackle rate, because it's been up there. Let me tell you, him and Van Dijk have been really, really, really good in those positions. But now Brighton on the attack, and it's Mudryk who's beaten his man. He's in behind Firpo here. He looks for that player lock, cancels it. Mudryk keeps going. Maybe a little shout of a penalty there, but you have to say, I think Firpo got more of the ball than he did the man. João Felix, little cricketer pass inside, and now it's Brighton inside the last 5 minutes or so are looking to create, but now a counter-attack chance as Cantona feeds it back to Martinelli, and smartly I think that Southampton just going to take their time to build up here and make sure they have that last attack.
Right in the end, going into this game actually, would you have assumed that it would be a goalless game?
With the way that both teams have been attacking, it's almost a surprise that this is a goalless game, because there has been chances and both players have got into good promising positions like we see here. In Southampton, if they do score here and finally manage to kind of break the curse of the 18-yard box and get that shot away, then you feel like it would be a winner.
I think so too. Perhaps he's spoken too soon. Martinelli in behind. And just a misplaced shot, inches away from the far post, and that would have been the decider for this match.
Again, maybe looking back at that chance, you think as the game comes to the conclusion at 0-0, green timing on that shot, that would have maybe tested the goalkeeper, found the back of the net, but just went for the standard shot across goal, as we now leave that game and its conclusion with 1 point being shared either side between Southampton and Brighton. To go over to the Xbox to see what's happening between our two players here.
Southampton leading 1-0. against Brighton in the Xbox match, which gives Southampton the lead overall between both teams. With 75 minutes left in this match, Brighton's going to want to look to make the equalizer to again share the points across both teams on both consoles, while Southampton is going to look to defend the lead. 15 minutes is not a lot of time.
Southampton are on the attack once more, and there was certainly opportunities to thread a few passes. It felt like there was a man-for-man situation starting to brew. Haaland makes that run, but it's back to Hullet. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's beautiful. And deserved the goal. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of football is what I want to see on the pitch, right? Quick 1-2 passes, finding space in front of goal. Van der Sar equal to it that time.
Right on the counter-attack here. Haaland trying to get that ball through, but just perhaps a quick pass. Perhaps didn't need to be as quick as it was to make sure that it was accurate, but Southampton back on the offense, on the front foot. Not a lot of pressure, I would imagine Southampton is feeling at this moment. 83rd minute. And they're leading 1-0. Maintaining that possession. Beckham, an item that we haven't seen, I personally haven't seen out all this tournament, but I'd imagine we haven't seen too much.
Certainly does that wing-back role perfectly, you would say, with the stats that he has in game. Just has enough defending, I think, to cover that role defensively, but going forward, especially with the passing stats he has, he's going to be able to pick out a few crosses. And speaking of picking out players, there's Haaland. Not sure about the chip in that position. Maybe if you're 1-0 up, the chip's the best play. But if it's 0-0, I'm trying to drive that one across goal as Veikos almost pressing from the front, manages to steal that ball away and almost work hard enough to gift himself and the team a goal.
Hopefully looking to find the back of the net before the 90th minute, the end of that match. Southampton with possession, and at this point in the game, looking to maintain that to ensure that they have the last attack of the game. Possession given away. This will be the last chance for Brighton to equalize. And again, just a pass that was perhaps a little too quick.
Yeah, just didn't have the timing on it. It's either it has to go earlier, or you feel like he has to recycle that play. But time against them in that particular decision that had to be made, and it's Southampton who come away with 3 points on the Xbox, and will come away with 4 points overall with the draw that we saw between the two players on the PlayStation 5 as well. So you have to say for Southampton, it's a pretty good result, you would say.
Definitely a good result, especially coming after a loss overall in the last matchup. So I think going into their next games, the last few games of the day, they're going to need some of that confidence to make sure that they are here tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the leaderboards and the groups, how they stand at the moment, is going to make some fascinating reading, and certainly going to add a little bit extra spice to the games that we have to kind of start closing out some of the groups that we've been watching so far this morning. And I got to be honest, if I'm in one of the top 2 positions, you're feeling pretty good, right? But I always feel like the team who's in second is the one with the target on their back, because everyone else is just thinking, okay, just qualify, just get into that second place position. First might be a bit out of reach, and we can't quite get there, but you're always looking over your shoulder in second place. In that leg, and it was just that one deciding goal that split the two teams.
You mentioned before about the table of the group and how that kind of lines out, and you're right, the second place team does have a target on their back, but what's interesting about what we've seen today is a lot of teams in each group are tied on points. So one win or one extra point or 3 extra points could take them from 4th to 1st, and so it really is, anything could really happen. And as we take a look at the groups right here, we see Villa, who if you tuned in to us earlier in the day, Villa was sitting around the bottom of the table for a couple of matches, and now they're leading the group with 16 points.
And surprising, to be honest with you, to see Brighton where they are. I looked at the Brighton lineup and the players that had qualified. I thought Brighton might be in for a little bit of a run here in the ePremier League. But Arsenal, you would say, still in with a shout, especially but with the wins that they've managed to pick up. A couple of draws maybe costing them a bit in those games. But Group A looking extremely tight between the teams, and still could change when it comes down to the final standards.
Definitely. Goal differential, there's a few games left. People are going to want to make the most of those, and we've said it several times, and we'll say it again. Similar to real life, there's a lot on the line. There's money on the line. There's bragging rights on the line, and these players need to win these games to stay in the competition, and if they don't, no one wants to go out on the first day.
Plus, you got an entire Premier League's fan base wanting to see you go through. I mean, if you're used to winning, and you're following your team right now, and all of a sudden you see them just outside of those qualification spots, and they're not going to make it through to the big day tomorrow, where we will crown our champion. That's pressure as well, right? You've got that shirt on your back. It's obviously a very moment filled with pride for you to qualify and represent these clubs in the Premier League. And sometimes that pressure, some players feel it, some players thrive on it. But speaking of big games and pressure environments, we're going into our next one here. We've got Manchester United taking on Chelsea.
A good one. One we haven't seen. I feel like all of the games that we have watched have been Brighton, Southampton, Arsenal. So this will be a new one, and an exciting one with players that we personally have not seen yet. You might have seen already, but two powerhouses in the Premier League. Two powerhouses that, if we were watching this game in the Premier League, would be one of those.
You'd be tuning in.
Yeah,
and you should be tuning into this game as well. I mean, the two players we're going to see is Tyreece versus NH on the PlayStation 5 between these two teams. And Tyreece has kind of made his name as Mr. Manchester United in the ePremier League. Made it to the finals one year. Didn't quite manage to get over the line in the cross-console final to call himself number one, but certainly was the number one on his console when it was all said and done. But before that tournament, everyone was like, who's Tyreece? And now everyone's like, oh, I've got to play Tyreece. So that's what the ePremier League can do. It's a great tournament where anyone can enter. Great aspirations to take your career to the next level in FIFA esports. And Tyreece, I think, is the perfect poster boy for it.
It's interesting, too, because having anyone being able to enter and playing at a level like this, all eyes are on you. And not just in the FIFA esports world, but you mentioned Premier League fans all over the world are watching this tournament. So you could, we've seen it in the past where players, come up the ranks, have one good weekend, and then they're competing in every global series competition for FIFA esports. Yeah,
it's very, very true. And we're going to have to see if we're going to find a few more of those stars as the weekend does progress. But for now, it's time for us to go to break, Leah. We'll be back in just a few seconds with more ePremier League.